watching the Sports Political channel of LB. I'm his contributor. If you're not subscribed to this channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and share these videos on your social media platforms. Let's get down to business. So in this particular video, we're going to talk about a city in Kansas that has criminalized its citizens for having roommates. Now, as I alluded to on many videos, we talked about how investors are buying up all the properties, and these investors then turn around and charge an exorbitant amount of money to live in these properties, making it damn near unaffordable to live. Now, in a previous video I did a few weeks ago, I talked about how the state of Tennessee has criminalized its citizens for being homeless, to where if you're sleeping out in an area you're not supposed to be in, you can face up to 6 years in jail. They treat it as a felony, and on top of that, if you get convicted of a felony, then you will lose your right to vote. So we're going to get into this article here from Business Insider. We're going to talk about a town in Shawnee, Kansas, where they made it illegal for you as an individual to have roommates in your house, apartment, or what have you. A city in Kansas has banned co-living, effectively making it illegal to have a group of unrelated roommates split the cost of rent in a single-family residential zoning district. Shawnee, located in Johnson County, unanimously voted early last week to ban the living arrangement in an 8-0 vote by the city council, as reported by the Kansas City Star. As rental and housing prices has climbed across the country, and I explained to you why that is, people have turned to roommates to help balance the cost. The Shawnee ordinance said a group of people is co-living if it includes at least 4 adults who are unrelated. Only one adult needs to be unrelated for the entire group to be classified as unrelated, according to the Kansas City Star. City staff received input and concerns from residents and city council members regarding a relatively new trend where single-family homes are being purchased and converted into rental units with multiple individual tenants. In this arrangement, individual tenants have leases of varying lengths, have separate secure access to their rooms, and do not know or have relationships with others who are also occupying the same family dwelling. The memo continued, saying the rental agreements or arrangements are not typical of common rental uses in single-family districts that are occupied by family units. The city council did not immediately address the insider's request for comment on Sunday. The ban came in spite of data presented in a housing study that demonstrated that the average housing price in Johnson County rose 37% between 2017 and 2021. Think about that. So they get on the citizens for basically moving in with each other and living with each other, but they don't go after the investors that are buying up the properties and jacking up the prices. And I wonder why that is. Maybe it's in it for them. Maybe there's a cut for them to let these investors come in and buy up all the property and then jack up the prices to where a middle-class citizen cannot afford to live in those homes. And who wants to live in Kansas anyway, considering that Kansas is right smack dab in the middle of Tornado Alley? Why, it take them a year to build these homes, only for the homes to be gone in a second? Just last week, a town in Kansas was struck by a tornado, and there was a drone that caught footage of this tornado that was tearing these houses to shreds. Like that, at the snap of a finger. These houses were gone just like that. Salute to my sister Unique Dawn in the building and Terry Smoot. Salute to y'all. Appreciate y'all for being up in here. Do me a favor, hit that like, hit that subscribe. My brother Mark Wonderlick in the building. So let me get this straight. Everything else can go up, but your pay can't go up. Right? How can people save money if everything is going up, but your income doesn't go up? And then on top of that, when your income goes up, that means they put you in a higher tax bracket. That means you'll be paying more in taxes. What's up, Ted Cox? So it's this constant domino effect. Because see, while we complain about our wages not going up, what we're not complaining about is the fact that when our wages go up, that means we're going to be put in a higher tax bracket. That means we're going to be paying more in taxes. So it's this never-ending domino effect. And we as citizens are on this proverbial hamster wheel. Because who doesn't like more money? The problem is you'll be paying more in taxes when you get more money. So we count it as income. And any which way you're trying to increase income, you got the government trying to tax you, whether it be a side hustle, whether it be something under the table. So it's a never-ending saga that you're going to be in. Meanwhile, these same people that's out here buying up all the property, jacking up all the prices and all that, they can sit up here and hoard their wealth and hide behind some provision that's going to allow them to keep their wealth. Now, I'm going to repeat this passage again. The ban came in spite of data presented in a housing study that demonstrated the average home price in Johnson County rose 37% between 2017 and 2021 from $324,393 to $443,700, according to the Kansas City Star. The housing study referred to the price rise as a health equity issue, noting that wages did not rise at the same rate. Now, we put you on another piece of information, right? Now, think about this, y'all. Where you live at right now, there's only been subtle changes, right? If you really look around you, there might have been a new housing development not very far from where you live at. I know where I'm at right now. They've had some new housing developments. They've also had other things, but for the most part, outside of a couple of areas where they're building houses at, right? And I know for a fact Ryan homes are not very quality built homes. They may look good, but it's one of those cases where it's good from afar, but it's far from good. I mean, they might look beautiful, they might charge you $500,000, but it's not worth the money that you're paying. That's another thing they don't tell you. But for the most part, not a whole lot around you has changed. And yet, prices are going through the roof. People are paying way more than what they did even 2 years ago. And Dave Ramsey, another white supremacist, right? If you pay attention to what he says and how he says it, he basically let the cat out the bag. And he basically said that, is what the people think the market is. So you can wake up one day and you can be basically drinking your coffee, doing whatever, and somebody could come out and say, well, I think the housing market should be raised 10%. And they will raise that rate 10% because of what they think what the market is, right? And it all goes back to greed. See, people use the term inflation, but inflation is nothing more than a dog whistle for greed. What's up, 3,000 degrees? Yeah, I'm talking some real stuff right here. You know what I'm saying? So I need y'all to share these videos and hit that like button for me, because we talking some real stuff here. Anything to protect their wealth while stripping you of yours and getting you further in debt. That's why the whole wealth gap is widening, especially in the Black community. And it's robbing you of your dream to own a home one day. Over and over again, what rose to the surface was the cost of housing was the thing that impacted people's ability to be healthy. What? So you mean to tell me a health equity issue? Come on. Come on. Y'all really think a health issue? A health issue. A health issue is the contributor to the rising housing prices. Are you kidding me? You can't be serious right now. Over and over again, what rose to the surface was the cost of housing was the thing that was impacting people's ability to be healthy, said Christy Bogman, Director of Education and Planning for the United Community Service of Johnson County per the Kansas City Star. According to 2022 Washington Post analysis, rent in Johnson County has risen by 11%. The average rent paid was $1,263. Part of the Kansas City metropolitan area, Shawnee, had a population of over 65,000 in 2019. Just disgusting, man. I wouldn't be surprised if other places in the United States take on this. I wouldn't be surprised if other counties and other municipalities across the United States will start taking on this kind of notion that you can't be in a house with someone that's not related to you. Now, what does that mean, right? Because a lot of people cannot afford these houses. A lot of people cannot afford these prices or whatever. And with that, if you're criminalizing people for basically being roommates, you're basically forcing people to live in homes they cannot afford, which means they won't be able to pay the rent or the mortgage, which means that the eviction rate is going to skyrocket. Do y'all see the domino effect here? If you're forcing people to live out in town by themselves, they're not getting paid the money necessary to be able to pay the rent or the mortgage, right? Which means they're not going to be able to pay the rent or the mortgage, which means if they fall behind, they're going to get evicted eventually. And then when it comes to emergency aid, you can't get emergency aid if the agency thinks you make too much money. If the agency thinks you make too much money, you're not going to get rental assistance. Now, mind you, if you got to pay child support, if you got to pay, this bill, that bill, car insurance, home insurance, renter insurance, um, car insurance, all this other stuff, you still got to, pay for daycare if you got children, all this stuff. And yet, if you get extra income that puts you in a higher tax bracket, that means you got to pay taxes on it, right? And if you try to go get rental assistance to try to help you pay the rent, and if they deem you make too much money, you're not going to get the assistance necessary, which means you're going to end up in court, which means you're going to get a judgment and they're going to kick you out your home and you'll be in the street. Emergency rental aid has helped keep millions of people in their homes during the pandemic, but the federal program will start winding down this summer when it expects to have allocated all of the $46 billion from Congress. About half of that has been spent so far, and in some places, programs are now running out of their share of the money and is shutting down. That is sending eviction filings up sharply, even as rents spike and inflation cuts deeper into the housing budgets. In Plymouth, Minnesota, Wayne Menschke said that 8 months of federal rental aid was a huge relief. The 61-year-old works in hospitality as an executive recruiter and depends on commissions. He said his company was devastated when the Maximus hit, and that he missed more work with a case of the breakthrough COVID last fall. His kidneys and lungs have still not fully recovered, and his exercise can be tough. His income is also spotty. So literally, people have to decide between buying food for their children or the elderly parents or paying rent. Texas and Houston in particular has actually been a model for Treasury Department's emergency rental relief program. Last year, it was having a slow, rocky start in many places. Texas was able to get more money out the door for struggling tenants because of that success when funds ran out of the Treasury Department, reallocated more money, part of an effort to shift it where it's most needed. But not all landlords or property managers work with tenants to get that aid. That's another element that doesn't get talked about. Janie Mendoza, a single mother of 6 in Houston, she fell behind on her rent where her kids were sick during the pandemic. She had to cut her work in hours as a hostess. Mendoza says she applied for rental assistance actually 3 times as she found the process confusing. The one manager was helping her from before. She was trying to do her best to provide whatever she could. Once she left and another manager came in, it just turned everything upside down. Then she ends up getting an eviction notice. So, as I stated before, this situation is only going to get worse. And which means that another element which they always talk about, these politics always want to talk about the crime rate. Because when people are desperate and when people are hungry and when people are starving and they're seeing that this other individual here who's benefited off of the people who are struggling, people who are starving and all that, then people gonna get desperate and people gonna go out here and commit crimes because they're trying to have a way to survive. And every time you turn your head, they're criminalizing this, they're criminalizing that. Meanwhile, the people who are actually committing the criminal offenses, they're getting away with it. They're allowed to continue to buy our properties and jack up prices and all that. You got politicians who are allowed to get away with insider trading. You got politicians who allow bribing to go on in the country. They'll sit up here and tell you that you can't do this. Meanwhile, they're doing the same thing they're telling you you can't do, and they're profiting off of it, making money hand over fist. So that's where I'm at on that. It's a never-ending cycle of greed, bigotry, and more greed. They'll sit up here and tell you that everything's fine. We ain't got nothing to worry about. Meanwhile, chicken costing $25. You got chicken wings costing $25. You got gas costing just as much as a two-piece dinner at Popeyes and all that in some spots. But they're telling you everything's all right. That if you vote for me, I'm going to make sure that I'm going to do what I can to get the prices down and all that. Disgusting. Now, if you're not a subscriber to this channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and share these videos on your social media platforms. Last but not least, shouts out to the LGBTC. This your man. Scream at me. Oh!